Welcome back to Daniel Grant Economics. On our third video today, we are moving on into topic 2 of module 1. This topic is called the theory of consumer demand, and today we're going to be discussing 4 distinct things about this theory. 1 being the cardinalist approach, 2 being the assumptions, 3 what is utility, especially when it's diminishing, and 4 lastly the law of equi-marginal returns. To me, it is one of the most interesting theories in your syllabus for Unit 1, and we're going to get on that in this video right now.
Nice like a fight.
Now, in order for us to even discuss consumer demand theory, we must first ask ourselves, what is a consumer and what is demand? And you might think you know these things, but really and truly no.
Hey, you relax yourself. You relax yourself.
So a consumer firstly is anyone who purchases a final good and service in order to satisfy some want or some need or want that they have, some desire that they have. So that's the first thing, a purchaser of a final good or service. The second thing is what's demand. Demand in economics has a specific definition. In order for it to be effective demand, you must not only have the want for the good or the need for the good, you must have the willingness and ability.
It's $500, you have no choice of carrier, the battery can't hold a charge, and the reception isn't very—
Shut up and take my money!
To purchase the good. And there's the difference. That's what we call effective demand. Willingness and ability to purchase the good. Because let's face it, right now I need like a BMW X6, but I mean, I ain't really have it. And now for the assumptions. We have 2 major assumptions here. And assumptions allow our theory to work in the way we set it out to. And I said earlier, it wouldn't function properly if we don't have these assumptions. So assumption 1 is consumers are utility maximizers. But pause, let me tell you what utility is first. Now, utility is our way of adding a value to satisfaction. I know it seems crazy that we could now say, hey, I enjoy sorrel juice 30 utils, or TikTok gives me 100 utils of satisfaction. Like, that don't make any sense. Like, it really doesn't make sense that we could quantify satisfaction. But we are making an assumption that would allow our theory to work. So we roll in with it, right? We can assign a value in terms of what we are satisfying. That's the definition there. Consumers are utility maximizers. In everything that you consume, goods or services, you try to get the most satisfaction from it. You want as much as possible. And in reality, you do. You want to enjoy yourself as much as possible in anything you endeavor to. Whether you're eating, drinking, maybe partying, I don't know. It's your life. But you try to gain as much satisfaction as possible. Our second assumption is consumers are utility maximizers, yes. But you also try to do so at the least possible cost. And I believe in that one wholeheartedly. Because sometimes I want to buy something, but boy oh boy, when I see that something on sale, it makes me feel even better. So you try to maximize your consumption of goods and services, your satisfaction of consumption of goods and services, and you try to do it at the least possible cost. Now I have the sad part. There's a rule when it comes to utility. And we call it the law of diminishing marginal utility. We're saying as utility changes, as it increases, it is increasing at a decreasing rate. And allow me to use OpenBoard to show that example as well. But before I do that, listen to this. On a hot day, you've been out for the entire day and you're quite thirsty. You open the fridge and your fridge is filled with water. Filled. You take a bottle out and you open it and you drink that water. It's heavenly. You feel the water running along the lining of your stomach because you need to eat as well, you're a little hungry. But you're drinking water first. That first bottle of water changes your life. And then you have an urge to drink a second one. You drink that second one. It's almost as enjoyable as the first. You drink the third, the fourth, the fifth. What do you think is happening to you at the 5th bottle? Are you enjoying it just as the first? No. This is the law of diminishing marginal utility in action. If you're enjoying something and you do it a lot let's say every day, repeatedly, you can eventually lose the joy of it. The satisfaction you gain from repeating this action or consuming this good or service is diminishing in front of your very eyes. It's like you eat your favorite food too much. All of a sudden, you're not enjoying it as much. And that is the law in words. Okay, great. So now we're on open board. We can see here that let's look at unit of ham and hops consumed, right? Let's consuming successive units of this. This is the only good available for us to eat on the market. As very hungry individuals, the first one we consume gives us 30 utils. What is the change in utility here? We have total utility, and we have marginal utility. Good. So we consume one, our very first unit of ham and hops, and our utility changes by 30. Marginal utility in this case is 30 as well. Now we consume the second unit because, hey, we're greedy, we probably have a little more money to spend. So the second unit we consume. How has our utility changed? In other words, what is our marginal utility? It's changed, yes, but by 25. Still feeling a little hungry, so I still am going to get a third unit of it. Utility goes up. Total utility has gone up again. It's 75. How much did our utility change by? And if you haven't realized, we're taking the new utility, the new total utility, and minusing it from the old total utility. So the new is 75, minus 55 gives us 20. Going forward again, we've consumed the fourth unit because, hey, we're greedy, we get it for cheap. 85, our utility changed by 10. Something interesting happens on our sixth unit. Tell me, when you consume the sixth unit, what happens? What happens? How much did your utility change by? It didn't. Good. By our fifth unit, our marginal utility did not change. And when we consumed our sixth, something interesting happened. Our utility went down. If I take the new, which is 80, minusing 85, you're going to get minus 5. Your total utility actually went down this time. So here we have how our law of diminishing marginal utility functions. Yes, total utility had been going up. But what we observe in the marginal aspect, it was increasing, but the rate at which it was increasing was slowing down. It went up by 30, then 25, then 20, then 10, and then we hit zeros and even minus 5. It was increasing, but it was doing so at a decreasing rate. And that is the law of diminishing marginal utility. On to our last bit of content here. We're looking at the law of equi-marginal returns, or how do consumers allocate their budget across all goods and services to maximize satisfaction. And in order for us to do that, we need to utilize specific variables. And well, let's show that on open board, right? Now, the first variables we have, what we need to consider is the marginal utility of the goods, the price, and of course, the budget that you're working with, right? Because they have a specific income. So you need to know how you're allocating this income across the goods and services you want to purchase. So when I say marginal utility, consider there are two goods, right? Consider good X and consider good Y. We know marginal utility is a change in utility. So let's just say in order for me to consume the next unit of good X, the utilities are going to change by 50. And you know, well, price stays the same. So the price of this good might just be $5. What is this MU to price ratio that I'm constructing for you here? The MU to price ratio in this case is 10. And I'll just put this here. The MU of good X over the price of good X is the MU price ratio, right? And what does this tell me? This, in essence, tells me, hey, when you spend that $5, let me change the color. When you spend this $5, you're going to get 50 utils extra marginal utility. This 10 tells me the utility I gain per dollar. So for every dollar I spend here, I'm gaining 10 utils. This is the MU price ratio of good X. Now, in order for us to find the optimal allocation of the resources, we need to compare this to the MU price ratio of good Y. If the MU price ratio of good X, and I'll just write this, is greater than the MU price ratio of good Y, what would happen? And let's put actual numbers to this. Let's just say 10 is greater than 2, right? So this tells me, hey, if you spend money on good X, you're gonna get 10 utils per dollar. Let's say Y is also $5. When you spend this money on good Y, you're only going to gain 2 utils per dollar. Utils is units of satisfaction. So would you rather gain 10 units of satisfaction or 2? In this case, you're going to buy more of good X because you want greater levels of satisfaction. Man is ultimately greedy and self-serving, right? And it's important to note, when you consume another unit of good X, what happens to the utility? Remember, it's diminishing. So as you consume more and more of good X, utility gets to the point where it's actually equal. It's going to come down until the MU price ratio, it could be equal, because this is going to decrease as you choose to consume more and more units. But follow me again. What if the MU price ratio looks like this, where it is less? What would you purchase more of, good X or good Y? We could add numbers to it if you like. 8 is greater than 4. So if you're going to get more utils per dollar here rather than here, you are going to buy more of good Y. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but it just happens. It just happened, according to young brother. When you purchase and consume more units of good Y, the MU price ratio is going to come down. And eventually it can come down to the point where the MU price ratios are equal once more. That is the gist here. The consumer allocates their dollar across all goods and services. It could be X, Y, Z, such that the MU price ratios for all these goods, equate themselves. You are going to compare the marginal utility price ratio of all of them. And if one is higher than the rest, I'm going to buy a unit of that. But it's important to understand the law of diminishing utility kicks in. So when I consume that additional unit, the next unit is going to provide less satisfaction, which means that there's a possibility another good could now provide more utility per dollar. And it just so happens, if it's equal, therefore I don't need anymore. I'm in equilibrium. I want to allocate my money such that the last dollar I spend brings these things into equilibrium such that I don't need anymore. I am satisfied as much as I possibly can. And that's what consumer equilibrium here simply means. It simply means the point at which the consumer maximizes their utility. That's it. Man is ultimately self-serving, which means you are going to gain as much satisfaction as you can, as cheapest as possible. That is the core of consumer demand theory. Now, this is the end of our video today. And if you like the video, please show it. Actually press the like button. Also, if you want more of this, consider subscribing so that when I post stuff, you're going to get it onto your feed. This is Donald Grant Economics. Thanks for your time.